The stars shone brightly outside the large window of the Earth Defense Fleet station. Captain Ethan Miller stood with his hands behind his back, watching the alien ship move away from Earth. His face showed no emotion, but inside, he felt both anger and worry. Today should have been the greatest day in human history. Humans had finally met aliens from another world. The Ardaxians, they called themselves. Tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and eyes that glowed slightly in the dark. They had arrived 3 days ago in a ship that made Earth's best spacecraft look like children's toys. At first, everyone was excited. World leaders welcomed them. People cheered in the streets. News stations talked about nothing else. This was the moment humanity had waited for. But the excitement did not last long. "Sir," a voice said from behind him. Captain Miller turned to see Lieutenant Lisa Carter. She was young but already one of his best officers. "The President has called an emergency meeting. All fleet commanders must attend." Miller nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll leave right away." He took one last look at the departing Ardaxian ship. Their meeting had not gone well. Not well at all. The Ardaxians had not come to make friends. They had come to take over. "We have watched your kind for many years," their leader had said during the final meeting. "You humans are violent and dangerous. For the safety of the galaxy, you must accept our protection and control." When Earth's leaders refused, the Ardaxians laughed. They showed videos of their weapons destroying entire planets. They talked about their vast empire that ruled over hundreds of worlds. "Your weapons are like toys to us," they had said. "Your ships are slow and weak. You have no chance against us. We will return in 1 month with our fleet. Be ready to surrender, or we will show you what real power is." And then they left, just like that. A simple threat, delivered with the confidence of those who were used to being obeyed. "Lieutenant Carter," Miller said as he walked toward the door. "Begin Protocol Hedgehog." Carter's eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure?" Protocol Hedgehog was their most secret plan, created for the worst possible situation: hostile alien contact. Most people, even many in the military, didn't know it existed. "Unsure," Miller said firmly. "And contact Base Alpha. Tell Dr. Reyes to activate all projects, especially Project Thunderbolt." "Yes, sir," Carter replied. She hesitated, then asked, "Do you think we have a chance? Their technology is so far beyond ours." Miller stopped walking and turned to face her. "Lieutenant, do you know what the Ardaxians don't understand about humans?" "What's that, sir?" "Throughout our entire history, we've been fighting. First against nature, then against each other. War is terrible, but it taught us something important. Never give up, no matter how bad things look." He continued walking, his steps more determined now. "The Ardaxians think technology is everything. They think their big ships and fancy weapons make them better than us. But they've never faced humans before. They have no idea what we're capable of when our backs are against the wall." As Miller entered the elevator that would take him to his shuttle, he smiled slightly for the first time that day. "And there's one more thing they don't know, Lieutenant." "What's that, Captain?" "They think they've seen all our technology. They think they know what we can do." The elevator doors began to close. They're wrong. Far below the surface of the moon, in a base that officially didn't exist, hundreds of scientists and engineers were already hard at work. Machines hummed as they built weapons unlike anything Earth had publicly shown. Ships bigger and more powerful than any known to the public waited in hidden hangars. Humanity had always feared this day might come. They had prepared for it in secret for decades. The Ardaxians thought they were dealing with helpless, primitive humans who would bow down in fear. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Olivia Rye's wiped sweat from her face as she looked at the large machine in front of her. The quantum displacement field generator hummed with power. Blue light pulsed from its core, casting strange shadows across the underground lab. "Power level at 95%, and holding steady," said Dr. William Garcia from his control station. His fingers moved quickly over the screen as he checked the numbers. The test target is completely destroyed at the molecular level. It worked, Olivia. It actually worked. Olivia allowed herself a small smile. For 10 years, she had worked on this project. Many people said it was impossible. Now, deep under the surface of the moon in the secret base Alpha, she had proven them wrong. The Ardaxians won't know what hit them, she said. The lab doors slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Frank Calloway walked in. His uniform was perfect, but his face showed that he hadn't slept much. He looked at the machine, then at Olivia. "Dr. Rice, I need good news," he said. "The President just finished an emergency meeting with world leaders. The Ardaxians will be back in 1 month with their fleet." Olivia pointed to the screen that showed the test results. "We're ready, Admiral. The quantum displacement field works perfectly. It breaks the bonds between molecules. Any ship caught in it will simply fall apart." The Admiral nodded, but didn't smile. "How many can we make in a month?" "With all resources directed to this project. Enough to arm our main fleet and the orbital defense platforms. We've made the process much simpler in the last version." Admiral Calloway walked to the large window that looked out over the main hangar. Below them, hundreds of workers moved around ships and weapons that the public had never seen. "And what about Project Thunderbolt?" he asked. Dr. Garcia stood up from his station. "That's my department, sir. We've solved the power problems. The weapon can now hit targets up to 1 light-year away. It creates a focused gravity wave that can tear apart anything from a ship to a small moon." The Admiral was silent for a moment. "So we can hit them before they even reach our solar system?" "Yes, sir," Garcia replied. "But we only have one working prototype. We need more time to build more." Calloway turned back to face them. "Time is something we don't have, Doctor. The President will address the world tomorrow. She'll reveal the existence of this base and our advanced weapons. People need to know we can fight back." Olivia felt a chill go through her. For decades, the world's governments had kept these projects secret. They had put the best minds and enormous resources into preparing for this exact situation, hostile alien contact. Now, everyone would know. "The Ardaxians think we're weak because we haven't mastered faster-than-light travel," she said. "They don't understand that we've been focusing on other technologies." Admiral Calloway walked to the quantum displacement field generator and placed his hand on its metal surface. "All of human history has led to this moment. We've fought wars, faced disasters, and nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we survived. We always survive." He looked at the two scientists. "The Ardaxians think they're dealing with a young, helpless species. They expect us to surrender without a fight. They're about to learn how wrong they are." In the hangar below, workers loaded weapons onto transport ships. Pilots checked their fighters. Soldiers prepared for battle. Earth was getting ready. "Operation Last Warning is now active," said the Admiral. "Every hidden weapon, every secret ship, every technology we've kept off the books, it all goes into play now." Dr. Rice looked at the quantum weapon she had created. It could destroy entire ships in seconds. Part of her was proud of what she had built, but another part was sad that it was necessary. "Admiral," she asked, "do you think we have a chance?" Calloway smiled for the first time. "Dr. Rice, the Ardaxians have made one critical mistake." "What's that?" "They threatened us. Throughout history, nothing has united humans more quickly than a common enemy." He looked out at the massive fleet being prepared in the hangar. "The Ardaxians think we're primitive because we haven't spread across the stars yet. They don't realize we've been preparing for them all along." Outside, Earth continued to turn peacefully in space. Its people went about their daily lives, not yet knowing that in 24 hours, everything would change. President Natalie Wright took a deep breath as she stood behind the curtain. In a few moments, she would walk onto the stage at the United Nations and change history forever. She would tell the world about the Ardaxian threat and reveal secrets that had been kept for decades. Her assistant handed her a glass of water. "It's time," Madam President. With a nod, President Wright straightened her jacket and walked onto the stage. The room was filled with leaders from every country on Earth. Cameras broadcast to billions of people around the world. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice strong and clear. 3 days ago, our planet was visited by an alien species called the Ardaxians. What began as a historic moment of first contact has now become a crisis. The Ardaxians have demanded that Earth surrender its freedom. They have given us 1 month to prepare for their return, at which point they expect us to give up our independence without a fight. Murmurs spread through the crowd. On screens around the world, people watched with fear and confusion. But I stand before you today not to spread fear, but to offer hope. The president pressed a button, and large screens behind her lit up. They showed images of massive ships, advanced weapons, and bases on the Moon and Mars that most people had never seen before. For the past 50 years, the nations of Earth have worked together in secret. While we publicly argued about politics, behind closed doors we prepared for this very day. Today, I can reveal the existence of the Terran Defense Initiative, a unified military program with technology far beyond what is publicly known. The screens showed more images, soldiers in advanced armor, energy weapons being tested, and orbital defense platforms circling Earth. The Ardaxians believe we are weak. They think our technology is primitive. They expect us to surrender without resistance. President Wright's voice grew stronger. They are wrong. In orbit above Earth, Colonel Daniel Wright, the president's brother, watched the speech from the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Earth's first true battleship. Around him, officers from countries that were often political enemies worked side by side. "Status report," he ordered. Commander Sofia Alvarez looked up from her station. "All systems ready, Colonel. The fleet is at 90% deployment. The lunar cannons are online, and the Mars defense grid is activating now." Colonel Wright nodded. On his screen, he could see hundreds of ships moving into position throughout the solar system. Some were coming out of hidden bases on asteroids. Others were rising from underwater hangars on Earth. A fighting force that had been built in secret was now revealing itself. Back at the United Nations, President Wright continued her speech. "To any alien civilization watching this broadcast, this is humanity's official response to your demands. We will not surrender. We will not be controlled. Earth is our home, and we will defend it with everything we have." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "This is our first and last warning. Leave us in peace or face the consequences." The room erupted in applause as leaders from around the world stood up in support. On screens across Earth, people watched in amazement as military ships they never knew existed flew overhead. Soldiers in advanced armor marched in cities. Defense systems rose from hidden locations. In a small town, a young boy looked up at the sky as a massive ship passed overhead. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked. His mother put her arm around him. "Yes, honey. Those ships are ours. They're here to protect us." For the first time since the Ardaxians had threatened Earth, people began to feel something new. Not fear, but pride and determination. In the Geneva Command Center deep underground, General Alicia Foster watched as reports came in from around the world. Military units were moving into position. Secret weapons were being deployed. The plan that had existed only on paper for so many years was now in action. "General," said Admiral Howard Stevens as he entered the room, "the lunar base reports that the quantum weapons are ready for deployment." General Foster nodded. "Good. Get them to the fleet immediately." She looked at the global map showing their forces. The Ardaxians think humans are easy prey. They're about to learn what happens when humans stand together. All across Earth, a species that had spent most of its history fighting itself was now united against a common threat. The Ardaxians were coming, but humanity would be ready. The alarm sounded throughout the Geneva Command Center. Red lights flashed as officers rushed to their stations. On the main screen, small dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. "They're early," said General Alicia Foster, her face calm despite the situation. The Ardaxians were supposed to arrive in 2 more weeks. Admiral Howard Stevens stood beside her, looking at the screen. 37 ships. Standard invasion formation. They're not even trying to hide. General Foster pressed a button on her command table. "All stations, this is General Foster. Operation Last Warning is now active. I repeat, Operation Last Warning is active. Around the solar system, hidden weapons powered up. On distant Pluto, structures that had been built in secret years ago began to glow with energy. In the asteroid belt, disguised battle stations activated their systems. On Mars, huge cannons rose from the red sand. On the Ardaxian command ship, Supreme Commander Zorax looked at the scanned reports with confidence. His large blue hands tapped on the glowing screen. "The humans have some basic defense satellites," he said to his officers. "Nothing to worry about. Their technology is primitive, just as our scouts reported." His second-in-command, Varax, looked nervous. "Sir, shouldn't we be more careful? We were supposed to arrive with a larger fleet in 2 more weeks." Zorax laughed. "Why wait? Their defenses are weak. We'll take this system today and be heroes when we return home." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the humans our demand for surrender. Tell them they have 1 hour to respond before we destroy their main defense bases." The officer nodded and sent the message. A moment later, he looked up in confusion. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from..." He never finished his sentence. A bright beam of light shot from Pluto, hitting one of the Ardaxian ships. The ship glowed for a moment, then simply fell apart into tiny pieces. Zorax jumped to his feet. "What was that? What happened?" "Sir," another officer shouted, "2 more energy beams coming from the asteroid belt." 2 more Ardaxian ships were hit. They didn't explode. They just broke apart as if they were made of sand. "Impossible," Zorax shouted. "Their technology isn't capable of quantum displacement weapons." "How did they?" "Evasive action," yelled Varax. "All ships, scatter formation." But it was too late. From hidden positions all around the solar system, Earth's secret weapons fired. The quantum displacement beams hit ship after ship, breaking them apart at the molecular level. In the Geneva Command Center, General Foster's voice was calm as she gave orders. Phase 2. Deploy the stealth squadrons. Throughout the solar system, fighter ships that had been hiding in sensor-proof hangars launched into space. They were smaller than the Ardaxian vessels, but much faster. Each carried weapons that the Earth had developed by studying pieces of alien technology from crashed scout ships over the years. On his command ship, Zorax watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. "This is impossible. The humans are primitives. They shouldn't have this technology." "Sir," said Varax urgently, "we need to retreat. We need to warn the hegemony." Zorax stared at the screen, watching another of his ships break apart under the human attack. The creatures he had dismissed as simple and weak were destroying his fleet with technology that should be beyond their reach. "Prepare for emergency jump," he finally ordered. "We must return to warn our people." Only 2 Ardaxian ships managed to escape, badly damaged. The rest were left as floating debris in space. In the command center, Admiral Stevens looked at General Foster. "Should we pursue the survivors?" Foster shook her head. "No. Let them go. Let them tell the others what happened here." She looked at the screen showing the destroyed Ardaxian fleet. This was just the first wave. They'll be back with a larger force. But now, they know we're not helpless. They know we can fight. Around Earth, people watched on their screens as news spread of humanity's first victory against the alien threat. People who had been afraid now cheered and celebrated. But in military command centers, leaders knew the truth. This was just the beginning. The real war was about to start. Supreme Commander Zorax stood before the Ardaxian High Council. His once perfect uniform was torn and burned. His blue skin had turned pale from his injuries. Behind him, images showed the remains of his destroyed fleet floating in Earth's solar system. "They were waiting for us," he said, his voice shaking with anger and shame. "The humans have weapons that should be impossible for their level of development. They destroyed most of our ships in minutes." The High Council members looked at each other with concern. The oldest member, Grand Elder Mox, leaned forward. "How is this possible? Our scouts reported that humans were at least a century away from developing quantum technology." Zorax shook his head. "They hid their true capabilities. They have weapons platforms throughout their solar system. They have quantum displacement beams. They have gravity weapons. They knew we were coming and set a trap." In another part of the galaxy, a small human ship appeared suddenly near an uninhabited moon in Ardaxian territory. It was the first time a human ship had traveled faster than light. Inside, Captain Rita Douglas looked at her crew with pride. "We did it," she said. "First human ship to use the jump drive successfully." Her science officer, Ben Harris, looked at the screens. "No sign of Ardaxian ships in the area, Captain. We're clear to deploy the package." Captain Douglas nodded. "Do it. Then prepare to jump home. We only have a small window to complete the mission." The small ship released a probe toward the moon, then disappeared in a flash of light as it jumped back to Earth space. 2 days later, an Ardaxian science vessel arrived to investigate strange energy readings. They found a simple human communication device floating near the moon. As they brought it aboard, the device activated. A hologram of President Wright appeared. Her face was serious, and her voice firm. "People of the Ardaxian hegemony, you sent your fleet to conquer Earth. That fleet has been destroyed. This was our first demonstration of our military capability." The Ardaxian scientists watched in silence as the message continued. "Now we will show you our second demonstration." At that moment, a small weapon that had been hidden on the moon activated. It fired a single shot at the moon's core. The entire moon began to shake. Huge cracks appeared on its surface. The Ardaxian scientists rushed back to their ship in panic. As they escaped, they watched the moon break into thousands of pieces. The weapon had changed the gravity inside the moon, tearing it apart from within. The hologram of President Wright continued. "This demonstration represents only a fraction of our military power. We did not want this conflict. We were prepared to join the galactic community in peace, but we will not surrender our freedom." Back on Earth, President Wright sat in the Oval Office with her advisors. On the screen, they watched as the recording of her message played. "Have the Ardaxians received our message?" she asked. Admiral Calloway nodded. "Yes, Madam President. Our long-range sensors confirm the moon has been destroyed. The Ardaxian science vessel has returned to their territory." The President looked at the reports on her desk. Earth's forces were on high alert. The quantum weapons were fully deployed. The gravity cannons were ready. Humanity was prepared for whatever came next. "What do you think they will do?" she asked. Dr. Olivia Reyes, who had been invited to the meeting, spoke up. "Based on what we know of their culture, they have 2 choices. They can recognize us as equals and establish peaceful relations, or they can come back with everything they have," finished Admiral Calloway. In the Ardaxian capital, the High Council watched the recording of the moon's destruction with shock. Their greatest scientists confirmed the truth. Humans had weapons that could destroy worlds. "How could we have been so wrong about them?" asked Grand Elder Mox. Supreme Commander Zorax, still bandaged from his injuries, looked at the images of the destroyed moon. "They were not developing faster ships," he said quietly. "They were developing weapons. All this time, while we thought they were primitive, they were preparing for war." Grand Elder Mox turned to the other council members. "We have 1 standard week to respond to their message. What shall we do?" The room fell silent as the mighty Ardaxian hegemony faced a choice they had never expected: make peace with a primitive species or risk destruction in a war against an enemy with unexpected power. The Great Hall of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with excitement and fear. Representatives from over 200 alien species had gathered for an emergency meeting. News of the destroyed Ardaxian fleet and the shattered moon had spread quickly across the galaxy. Ambassador Kelly Porter walked into the massive chamber with her small team of humans. She held her head high, though inside she felt nervous. This was humanity's first appearance at the Galactic Conclave. Under normal circumstances, they would have been welcomed with a simple ceremony. But these were not normal times. The chamber fell silent as the humans entered. Many aliens had never seen humans before. Some looked curious, others afraid. The head of the conclave, a tall being with silvery skin named Sailor, spoke first. "We welcome the representatives of Earth to the Galactic Conclave," he said, his voice translated by small devices each member wore. Though we wish this meeting was happening under better circumstances, Ambassador Porter stepped forward to the central platform. The lights shone brightly on her as she prepared to speak for all of humanity. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity comes before you today, not as newcomers seeking permission to join your community, but as equals demanding to be heard." Murmurs spread through the crowd. This was not how new species usually spoke at their first conclave. "The Ardaxian hegemony attacked our world without provocation," Porter continued. "They demanded we surrender our freedom. When we refused, they sent their fleet to force us into submission." From his seat, the Ardaxian ambassador jumped up. His blue skin had darkened with anger. "These humans are dangerous," he shouted. "They destroyed our peaceful research fleet. They used forbidden weapons to destroy one of our moons. They must be contained before they threaten the entire galaxy." Ambassador Porter remained calm. "We destroyed your invasion fleet after you threatened our planet. We demonstrated our power on an uninhabited moon to show what would happen if you attacked us again. We did not kill your people without reason." She pressed a button, and images appeared above the central platform. They showed the Ardaxian ships arriving at Earth. They showed recordings of Supreme Commander Zorax's threats. They showed the first shots being fired. "For centuries, humans fought among ourselves," Porter explained. "We became experts at warfare, sadly. When we realized we were not alone in the universe, we prepared for the possibility that first contact might not be peaceful." She gestured to her aides, who began distributing data devices to each delegation. "These contain proof of our independent technological development," she said. "They also contain our terms for peaceful relations with all willing species. We seek trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense, not conflict." The Ardaxian ambassador's voice rose again. "They are lying. These primitives must have stolen technology from more advanced races. They cannot be trusted." Zalor raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador, please, we will examine the evidence from both sides." A representative from the Zorani species, beings known for their wisdom and fairness, spoke up. "I have a question for the humans. If you are so peaceful, why did you develop such destructive weapons?" Ambassador Porter looked directly at the Zorani. "The same reason you lock your doors at night. Not because you plan to fight with your neighbors, but because you want to be safe if someone tries to harm you." She turned to address the entire assembly. "Humanity does not seek war. We want to join the galactic community as equals. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves with all our power if threatened again." Throughout the chamber, representatives began talking among themselves. Some looked impressed by the humans' boldness. Others seemed worried about what this new species might mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. In the observation gallery above, Captain Ethan Miller watched with pride. The same captain who had witnessed the Ardaxians' first threats to Earth now saw humanity taking its place among the stars. An aide whispered in his ear, "Captain, we're receiving a message from Earth. The President wants an update on the Conclave's reaction." Miller nodded, still watching Ambassador Porter handle questions from various species. "Tell her it's going better than we expected," he said quietly. The galaxy is learning what the Ardaxians learned the hard way. Humans are not to be underestimated. 1 year had passed since humanity's first battle with the Ardaxians. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined before. Ships with faster-than-light drives now regularly traveled between Earth and other star systems. Alien visitors walked the streets of major cities. Earth products were sold in markets across the galaxy. On the newly built space station Harmony, floating between Earth and Mars, Admiral Ethan Miller looked out the large window at the stars. He wore a new uniform with gold stripes on the shoulders. Behind him, representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a large table. "The final terms have been accepted," announced Ambassador Trell of the Zorani. The tall, silver-skinned alien stood up. "The Galactic Mutual Defense Pact will begin today." Admiral Miller nodded with satisfaction. It had taken months of meetings and negotiations, but finally, Earth had achieved what once seemed impossible: a defensive alliance with several major powers in the galaxy. "Earth appreciates the trust shown by all members of this pact," Miller said. "Together, we will ensure that no species faces threats or attempts at conquest." The Zorani ambassador smiled in the strange way of his people. Who would have thought, 1 year ago, that humans would lead the creation of the strongest alliance in the galaxy? After the meeting, Miller walked through the space station. Humans and aliens worked side by side. Signs were written in multiple languages. In one area, human children played with young aliens, learning each other's games. In his private quarters, Miller connected with President Wright through a secure channel. "The pact is signed, Madam President," he reported. 7 major powers and 5 independent systems have joined with Earth. On the screen, President Wright smiled. "Excellent work, Admiral. And the Ardaxians? They've withdrawn to their territory. Our intelligence suggests they have completely changed their approach to other species. The defeat they suffered at Earth and the loss of allies has forced them to reconsider their entire policy." The President nodded. "Good. And what about Operation Archangel?" Miller's face remained serious. "The Deep Space Defense Network is 80% complete. If anyone breaks the peace, we'll be ready to respond." After ending the call, Miller returned to the window. He watched as ships from different worlds arrived and departed from the station. Trade vessels, diplomatic ships, and even tourist boats filled with aliens eager to see Earth. A young officer joined him at the window. "Quite a view, isn't it, Admiral?" "Yes, Lieutenant Chen." "It is," Miller replied. "Did you know that just 1 year ago, most humans had never seen an alien? Now we're at the center of galactic politics." Lieutenant Chen nodded. "My grandfather says he never thought he'd live to see humans travel to other stars. Now I'm about to serve on the first joint Earth-Zorani defense ship." Miller smiled. "The galaxy is learning what humans have known throughout our history: that determination can overcome any obstacle." In the distance, a massive ship moved slowly past the station. It was the EDF Guardian, Earth's newest and most powerful vessel. Built with technology shared by their new allies and combined with human innovations, it represented the new age. "We came into the galactic community ready for war because we had to," Miller said quietly. "But what we've built this past year is something better." "Peace through strength," Lieutenant Chen said. Miller nodded. "Exactly. The galaxy now knows that humanity comes armed and ready. But they also know we prefer to use our hands for building rather than fighting, as long as we're treated with respect." On Earth, people looked up at the night sky with new understanding. Those distant stars were no longer just points of light. They were places humans could now visit. Some were homes to new friends. Others might hold future challenges. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as victims or conquerors, but as equals. They carried with them the lessons learned through their long history of both conflict and cooperation. The message had been delivered and understood across the stars. Humanity came armed and ready, ready to defend, ready to trade, ready to make allies, and ready to forge their own destiny among the stars.